Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Boston Sports Nuts. As advertised, we have a very special edition today, which is our 2024 Boston Sports Nuts Awards, Sports Awards for Boston. I'm Jim Russo, and I'm joined by my good friends Paul Izzo to my left.
Great to be here. Where else would I rather be?
There you go. And Ken Berman to my right.
Nowhere else, but good to see you guys, and
right.
happy, healthy New Year, everybody.
By the way, this award show's big.
Oh,
you
it's
have
huge.
Your Emmys, your Oscars.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's right up there. And like the Grammys, who often start out with New Artist of the Year, we're going to start out with the Breakout Sports Star of the Year in Boston. And we're going to start with Paul Izzo.
Okay, this is a tough one because I think there's several candidates. But I'm going to go with Peyton Pritchard. In his first 3 years with the Celtics, he averaged 65 games a year. Didn't play every day. At about 6 points a game. Last year, he ups that to 10 and played in all 82. One of the few players in the NBA to actually appear in all the regular season games. He then made a tremendous impact in the playoffs. He's now, in this season, a front runner for the Sixth Man of the Year. And because he played a key role in a championship team, I'm going to go with Peyton Pritchard as the breakout athlete of the year.
Good choice. Ken Berman?
Interesting choice. I didn't see that one coming, to tell you the truth, although he is having his best season so far. Although, just to get to that a little bit, he really didn't have a great playoffs. He made two great shots that helped them, two long bombs at the end of quarters. But he didn't actually play a ton during the playoffs. But
19 minutes a game.
19 minutes a game. We like Pritchard. He's our guy, PP.
And this is all of 2024.
That's right.
It's calendar
All of
year
2024. So I had a tough time doing this, but I went with Jared Duran from the Boston Red Sox because he was the only exciting thing really to turn the Red Sox on for. And
That was my other one.
I thought he had his best season. So Duran is my guy.
I found this to be the toughest category. I actually had four contenders for this. One was Christian Gonzalez of the Patriots. I think we knew he was good, but I think he only played 4 games last year. My other, of course, was Drake May, but I didn't go with that. And my second choice was actually Paul's first, which was Peyton Pritchard, for all the reasons Paul said, his playoff and his breakout year this year. But I also went with Jared Duran. I think he really stepped up his game. If he hadn't got suspended, he would have played all 162. So, we count the votes here, and the winner of the Breakout Star of the Year is Jared Duran of the Red Sox.
Can I just interject one thing about the toughest category? To me, if we get to it, the toughest category was Patriots MVP.
We are going to get to it. Okay, the next category
is there one?
Is the Play of the Year. Ken, you're up.
Play it. Well, I'm going with Jaylen Brown's corner 3 in the playoff game against Cleveland, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Indiana.
Indiana. I'm sorry, Indiana. That improbable shot that sent the game to overtime?
Yes.
Yes, right.
Yep.
That was, to me, that's the play that stood out to me over the whole year.
Ken, I think that's a great choice. I really do. I went, though, with, I suppose, the most spectacular play as opposed to, I would agree with you, that was the most important play. I went with Pritchard's half-court shot in the Game 5.
Good one.
That electrified the Garden. I think, Paul, we were at your house, and we all got out of our seats cheering at halftime. So I went with Pritchard's shot. Paul, break the tie
I'm
or
breaking
come
the
up with a new
tie.
one?
I was at the game, right on the baseline. Jaylen Brown's shot to tie the game against Indy. The Celtics were in danger of falling down 1-0 in the series against a quick team that was playing with a lot of confidence. I think that Indiana team's very well coached. Now, the Celtics go on to sweep the series, but you never know how it would have played out. And not only did Brown make a tremendous play to make the shot, he had a steal in order to get the ball to the Celtics. He knocked the ball off them and out of bounds, and one of the great defensive plays in Celtic history. So I'm sorry, Jim, but that's the one of the year.
No, you guys win it 2-1. So the Play of the Year is Jaylen Brown's 3-point shot to tie Game 1 against Indiana and send it into overtime. Our next category is Best Decision of the Year. I'm up. My choice for Best Decision of the Year is is a decision that led to another one, so I've combined them. And that is Wick Grossbeck's instructions to Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla after losing Game 7 not to run it back, and then the trading of Marcus Smart. I think that was the key to the Celtics turning it around and getting Drew Holiday. So that was my decision of the year.
Well, I'm going to read you exactly what I have in my preparatory notes.
Yep.
Not bringing back the same Celtic team that lost in the Eastern Conference Finals the previous season, jettisoning Smart, Brogdon, and Williams took chutzpah. They saw that group was flawed.
All right, Ken. So we've already got a winner, but what was your choice?
It's unanimous.
It's unanimous. So the best decision of the year was the Celtics' decision not to run it back and all the subsequent moves
and I'll go with the trading of Marcus Smart because I just felt he was holding this team back.
I think it's all part of a piece.
Yeah, we're going to call
A
it
slight rebuilding. Of
We're
the
going to
bench.
call it unanimous that the decision on those people not to run it back. Okay, Paul, you're up. Our next category is actually the polar opposite. The worst decision of the year.
Okay, so this one, I went to sort of a category answer, more than one thing, which was the New England Patriots' failure to look outside their organization when transitioning from the Bill Belichick era to the post-Bill Belichick era. There were a lot of big names out there this winter. Just going to throw a few out there. Pete Carroll, Harbaugh, Vrabel, Cliff Kingsbury. Some guys that had a little mileage on the tires that could have come in various roles and capacities with the team. And they chose not to do that. They went on the cheap, in my opinion, kept guys in-house, gals in-house, moved them into positions they hadn't held before. And it's top to bottom.
Yeah.
The executive of player personnel never had that job before. The head coach never had a head coach job before. The coordinators had never been coordinators before or called plays before. It's rampant throughout the organization, and I think you see the results.
Ken Berman.
I would say I'm going to stick with the Patriots. Bob Kraft's decision 5 years ago that Mayo was automatically going to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. When you look at it now, it's just disastrous. I mean, it is really just a nightmare. He seems to not have a clue on what he's doing. And when you're Elliot Wolf's in charge, we're doing the same thing, but you get the third pick in each round. They got one player. One player.
Ken, just
Drake
for the
May.
record, they tied. There were rounds they got number 2.
Okay, good. Even worse decision then that Elliot Wolf was put in charge of that, and the Mayo decision is now looking like just crazy.
Didn't mean to correct you, but it puts
No,
it a
thank
little
you.
more perspective how bad the draft was.
Appreciate it.
My worst decision of the year is right in line with you guys. It was the Pats' decision not to conduct a coaching search. Paul raised, I'm not going to repeat the names, but there were a lot of names out there that should have, could have been interviewed, and who knows who would have got the job. I'm not saying Jim Harbaugh would have come here. The Chargers were in better shape, but, there's so many guys they could have looked at with more experience. So I'm
I'm going to expand on that quickly because
Me too.
I heard
go.
on 98.5 The Sports Hub, I heard one of the writers talking about, if anything, because they hadn't done a search in 20 years, having Belichick, that they really needed the experience, too, to go through the whole process, and they didn't even do that.
Well, the irony is, in the entirety of the Kraft ownership, dating back to early 1994, they had Bill Parcells, Pete Carroll, and Bill Belichick as a head coach. All three of those guys are going to end up in the Football Hall of Fame. All of them. So they went from 3 Hall of Fame coaches to a novice. I just think that's a curious way to go about it. Yeah. I think it says something about the way the Krafts think of their own judgment instead of relying on the judgment of other people. But that's for another day.
So we're going to call it the winner of the worst decision of the year, winner, if you will, is the Patriots' decision not to conduct outside searches for the organization.
All right.
Let's go with the broader category. Is that all right with you, Ken?
Yeah, that sounds good because it all falls under that umbrella.
Yeah, it does. All right.
Craziness.
Ken, this one is going to be a real tough one. I think we might have to do a separate show on this. It's so tough.
Yeah.
Ken, who is the Boston Sports Team of the Year?
Revolution. I went with the Revolution. I saw them score a goal once, and that was obviously the Boston Celtics, championship number 18, a dominant season from start to finish.
Yeah, I also picked the Celtics. 68-14 in the regular season, 16-3 in the playoffs, winning a championship. You had to pick the Celtics. I will say that it was so obvious that I do have a runner-up, and the runner-up is Ken Berman's UConn Huskies.
Oh, there you go.
I know that's not technically Boston, but they are the New England Patriots now who do not play in Boston. They're actually closer to Providence. They use Green Airport and Warwick. So I'm going to expand that a little down to the Connecticut border.
Thank you, Jim.
And my runner-up for Team of the Year is Ken Berman's UConn Huskies, who won their second straight national title under Danny Hurley. Paul?
Two things. Yeah, the Celtics are the obvious choice. Mostly because the entire organization from top to bottom is committed to winning championships. That's all they talk about. When they don't win the championship, they say, we're disappointed we didn't win the championship.
Yeah.
When they do win the championship, they say, we're looking forward to the next championship. That's the way I like my teams to be.
Right.
But I do want to say, for the record, for the first time on our new wonderful platform, that I oppose people that claim credit for teams that their kids went to. It's Ken Berman's UMass, Jim Russo's Providence College, Paul Izzo's URI in Syracuse. You do not get credit because your daughter went to UConn. I'm sorry.
I don't?
It's not Paul Izzo's USC. It's not. It's not Sarah Izzo's Duke University.
Well, I'm going with it. I don't know.
You could go with it. I know you gave him a lot of money.
I gave him a lot of money, yeah.
But I do not do that, and I'm proud of it.
And I still have a ball mark fixer.
You do,
that
and
says
I've seen
UConn on
you
it.
use it. One to the nub.
You got
It's
the
like the
ball mark
Shawshank
biscuit.
hammer.
Oh, my God.
Cost me $150,000 for that thing.
Wow. All right, so the winner of the Team of the Year, all kidding aside, was an obvious choice, and that is the Boston Celtics. Okay, Sports Writer of the Year. We're going to shift away from the athletes for a couple of categories. My Sports Writer of the Year is Chad Finn of the Boston Globe. This guy has risen up the ranks of the Globe, to be their most logical, pragmatic, consistent reporter. He basically is the TV writer who's expanded into the unconventional review every week, which is very good. He's very realistic about the teams. He's done excellent work on the Celtics, superb work on the Patriots, including where they are in the draft, things like that. This is a rising star, and he is my choice for Sports Writer of the Year. Paul?
That's funny that you picked him because I picked Chad also. Chad Graff of The Athletic, who I like. He covers the Patriots for The Athletic. He does deep dives into games. He does good follow-up articles. They're quick to get out there. I like Chad Finn a lot. That was a tough one for me. I thought it was funny they were both named Chad.
Right.
The problem that I have, and this is sort of there's just so many paywalls now because I like the Herald writers. I like Andrew Callahan. I like the Globe writers. I like the Athletic writers. I like to read some of the guys on the Boston Sports Journal. I'm going broke with all these paywalls.
I know, right? Yeah,
and
I stopped.
It's just hard to get all these stories every day.
I'll break the tie.
Yep.
Chad Finn.
Okay.
He's become my new favorite read in the Globe, and a lot of times I like his stories about the sports radio stations in town too.
Right.
He writes great stuff about
he's
that.
their media guy, right?
Yeah. But he's risen to mine. I'll say one thing I do look forward to in the Boston Globe every Sunday is Shaughnessy's column with, up to picked up pieces whatever he calls it.
Those are always popular.
Yeah.
Bill Reynolds used to do one in Providence.
Did, for what it's
Will
worth.
McDonough did it too, I remember.
Yep.
But I'm going with Chad Finn. I've really started to enjoy his writing the most.
Okay, so the winner of the Sports Writer of the Year for Boston Sports Nuts is Chad Finn of the Boston Globe by a 2-1 margin.
We'll be mailing all the trophies out. Is that
We
correct?
will. They'll all get one.
Yeah, okay.
They'll get one.
All right, Paul, you're up. And the next category, staying with the media, is sports broadcaster of the year.
This one was so easy. It was one of the easiest of the easy. I went with Brian Scalabrine. And let me tell you why. The color man for the Boston Celtics. He's a great successor to another great color man, Tommy Heinsohn. He's knowledgeable. He's candid. He brings the fun. He knows the league. He watches a ton of hoops. In fact, he's proud of the fact that he doesn't even know who's in the Super Bowl because he's too busy watching tape.
Yeah, that was great.
And he has a twinkle in his eye. I don't think he takes any of this too seriously.
No.
He's popular with the fans. Kids love him. Players like him. He works great with his new partner, Drew Carter. Slam dunk Scal. Best broadcaster in Boston, hands down.
Ken.
Well, we went for the year of 2024, correct?
Yeah.
So it spans last till now. Probably not a good choice, but I'm going to give it to Mike Gorman. In his last season in the
quite all
NBA, going out on top with a championship. He had lost his energy a little bit, but I'm going sentimental reason, Mike Gorman.
My choice was done with a nod to Mike Gorman, a nod to Jack Edwards, and a nod to Joe Castiglione, who all announced their final seasons.
Hey, that's interesting. I didn't think of that.
Just a nod. My choice is Brian Scalabrine. To me, he is what Paul said, the clear winner.
He's great.
In addition to what Paul said, from day one, he has brought a perspective of the modern game. Like the modern game, not like it. We've debated it. I'm sure we'll debate it again.
He knows it.
But as the broadcaster, his job is to tell us what's going on in the modern game, not long for a game 20 years ago. And he does that fantastic.
And Tommy occasionally fell into that.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy was, he came out of a different era. Brian...
Sorry, go ahead.
As Paul said, I would add that Brian did the impossible. He replaced, no one can replace Tommy Heinsohn, but he succeeded him and has created a new audience, I think, for himself. He is a perfect match for the Celtics' new announcer, Drew Carter, as Paul said.
Great together.
They are going to be a great team, hopefully, for many, many years to come, as Mike and Tommy were. And the other thing about Brian Scalabrine co-hosts my favorite sports talk show, which is a national show, which is the starting lineup on NBA radio with Frank Isola. And in both places, as Paul said, Scal does not take this as too seriously.
Yeah.
And he helps you enjoy it and laugh rather than, oh, this is the end of the world, And I give him all credit for that. So the winner by a 2-1 margin of our award for Broadcaster of the Year is Brian Scalabrine.
And he's becoming more and more of a homer, which I like.
Little bit.
He's heading down the Tommy Heinsohn
he's
path.
a Celtics announcer. On the show.
He says we.
I love it.
He has
He gets mad at the refs every once in a while now. I love it.
Hey, listen, we went from Johnny to Tommy, now to Scal. As Johnny said years and years ago, which Tommy relayed when he at most told him, it's about heroes and villains.
Yeah.
That's the story we're telling. And that has been a Celtic tradition. If you don't like it, and a lot of people didn't, they usually weren't Celtics fans. Most Celtics fans, I think, like it. So that's our winner. So let's go on, Ken, to the Boston talk show host of the year.
Well, this is this race because I think I have to go with the guy that keeps coming up number one in the ratings. And I'm going to, I don't listen as much as I used to, the negativity, but they are number one. I'll go with Felger or Felger and Maz, whatever way you want to say it. That show, those two, Mike Felger. I think Mike Felger leads the way for Sports Hub and Sports Talk in the town.
I couldn't agree more. My choice was Michael Felger. I don't listen much anymore either because of the negativity. However, Michael Felger has changed sports in this town. He's one of the most influential media people to come along in the last 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely.
The whole thing about you, That is Michael Felger. The whole thing about last names, Berman, what do you think?
Yeah,
Or
right.
Izzo, Russo, that is Michael Felger. The constant negativity is Michael Felger to reaches we never got, even with other negative shows. And it works for him. His audience is clear, and is huge. And lastly, as Don Imus used to say about certain people, Michael Felger knows how to do radio. And that's a big deal. It's radio. So my choice is Michael Felger.
Go ahead, Paul.
I have a protest vote here. I'm voting for
Okay.
no one. So I want to explain why.
Okay.
But
That's allowed.
This award, in my opinion, should be about the best. And I can't say that I think Michael Felger is the best. I think he's the most popular. I think he's the most influential. I think he gets the best ratings. And I think if that's what we're about, then I obviously have to
I admire
tip
this
my cap to
decision.
him, and I admire him for that. However, I think he's spoiled Boston talk shows and sports radio. I think we've seen a decline in the quality of callers as a result because everybody's getting on the negative bandwagon. I think a level of snark has now seeped into his show, especially with Murray and Maz. We got to know Maz on a personal level, Ken and I, a few years ago. He was the best, nicest guy.
Yeah.
He was incredibly great to us, this organization. He helped us out. I don't recognize him on the radio anymore. I'm not going to vote for Mike Felger. I'm going to issue a protest vote on this one.
Did he abstain?
I think he did. That's allowed.
Yeah,
All right, so
abstaining's
the
allowed.
winner, though, of the Talk Show Host of the Year is Michael Felger. The next category is the Coach Manager of the Year. I think this is probably another obvious one. I'll lead it off. That's Joe Mazzulla of the Celtics from Johnston, Rhode Island. The season before, there were a lot of question marks about Joe, despite coming within one game and a Jason Tatum sprained ankle of getting to the same place that Ime Udoka got the year before with basically the same team. But having said that, I think Joe grew as a coach this year. His use of timeouts changed. It was his team this year. He brought in top assistants, Charles Lee and Sam Cassell. Proof of that, Charles Lee getting a head coaching job immediately after 1 year under Joe Mazzulla. The players really like and respect Joe Mazzulla. And in the NBA, which is the ultimate players league, I don't think there's any question about that. That is a huge, huge quality to have. And I just think he's put his own stamp on the team. It's unique. So I go with Joe Mazzulla. Given that was kind of an obvious choice, I will give a backup, and that's Alex Cora, who I think continues to do a fine job managing with extremely little talent. So, Paul, your choice?
I can't really add to what you said about Joe Mazzulla other than I was not on his bandwagon the first year, but I think that was in part because of things he's changed. I think he's gotten better at in-game adjustments. I think he's gotten better at calling timeouts. Yeah. I think he's grown a little bit as a man in his post-game interviews and behavior. Some of the things I found annoying his first year, so I can't take issue with that one.
Ken?
Well, I split my vote between Bruce Arena from the Revs and Mayo from the Patriots. So
Okay.
no, I'm going with Joe Mazzulla. Paul and I were in agreement his first year. He was driving us crazy a lot of times with timeouts that didn't get called and did, and then his answers afterwards with the I don't know. I wasn't on his band, but he definitely learned. So I give him a lot of credit for that. He took that first year experience, turned it into a much, much better second year. So Mazzulla, obvious choice.
Okay, so by a 3-0 vote, the winner of the coach manager of the year is the Celtics' Joe Mazzulla from Johnston, Rhode Island, which I also loved when he went around with that trophy to the North End, I believe.
Yep.
That's a guy that was a Celtics fan when he was a kid,
Yeah.
and I love that. Okay, Paul, you're up again to lead us off with the general manager or the president of whatever operations, whoever's running the team. So let's just call it GM of the year.
Well, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on
No,
this
I
one.
don't
Brad
think so.
Stevens is the obvious choice. He made some very good trades,
Yes.
not just this past season, but previously to get Derek White, for instance.
Yep.
He's been dogged in his effort to put another banner up. He didn't rest on his laurels. Well, we're good enough to make the playoffs, which some teams seem to behave that way. He's very championship driven, which I like. And he just seems to me like the kind of person that I think if you came to him and said, we want you to run the Red Sox or the Patriots, he could do it. He just seems very dialed in.
Yeah.
He would say, all right, give me a few weeks to learn the sport. And then I'll and the finances, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I just
Yeah.
think he's that kind of person. So I went with Brad Stevens.
Yeah, obvious. Brad Stevens. But did he not trade Rob Williams and the guy? Who was the guy?
Brogdon.
Brogdon,
Malcolm Brogdon.
to get Drew Holiday?
And I think a number 1 pick.
And then, what a trade.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But Williams is once again not playing. And Brogdon's been traded 2 or 3 times since then.
My choice is Brad Stevens for all the reasons cited. Because this was an obvious one, I picked a backup. My backup is Bill Belichick, who, by his absence, showed that the NFL draft is not as easy as people think it is. When Elliott Wolf went 1 for 7 or 1 for 8, however many picks he had. So the winner of the GM of the year is Brad Stevens. Here's another one we might not spend that much time on. Ken,
John Henry. No.
Ken, you're our leadoff hitter on this, and that's owner of the year.
Irv Grousbeck. Well, he's the owner. Wick is...
He's the majority. I believe he's the majority.
Yes,
owner.
majority.
I don't know
But
for
it's
sure,
Wick
but-
Grousbeck. We all know it's Wick. We love Wick. Wick's great. He's championship driven. Owner of the year.
Yeah, my choice obviously is Wick, who totally championship driven, issued that famous statement, you know, we're not about making a profit or something, we're about parades. I wish Wick they were not selling and that he would stay, but Wick
yeah.
Grousbeck.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, so the winner of the owner of the year is Wick Grousbeck.
Wick, your trophy is in the mail.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're going to start with me, and we're going to go with the Boston Bruins MVP. I went with David Pastrnak. He had 47 goals last year, 63 assists, 110 points. With the retirements of Bergeron and Krejci, to me, he is, and the slippage this year of Jeremy Swayman a little bit, he is far and away the Bruins MVP. He started a little slow this year, but based on what he did last year, he's the Bruins MVP.
Yeah,
Paul?
I'm giving him that award mostly based on what he did last year. This
Right,
year it's
this
been a
year,
bit of a
yeah.
struggle,
Yeah.
but I can't think of anybody else that you'd even
It's-
consider.
It's that team is lacking now in top-notch talent, by the way. So, yeah, it's Pastrnak.
Okay, so the winner of the Bruins MVP for 2024 is David Pastrnak. Paul, this one actually, even though it's the Celtics, I think could be interesting to debate.
Yeah.
Who is the Celtics MVP for 2024?
Well, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum had a phenomenal regular season. In the postseason, he also was very effective, although he didn't shoot well from 3. But I think you saw him, and it's extended into this half season so far, improve as a rebounder, a distributor. He's had some triple doubles. He's a tremendous athlete. He seems to enjoy the role of leader of the Celtics, good family man, good in the community. I just think that he's the face of the Celtics. The Celtics are blessed that you actually could debate who's the best player.
Yeah.
But I have to go with Jason Tatum.
This was the toughest choice to me out of pretty much everything except, as I said, Patriots MVP. But I ended up going with Jason Tatum, too. I don't know how many times I went back and forth because Jaylen Brown got MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals and the Finals. But I think Tatum is their all-around leader. And as Paul said, this past season and into this season, his all-around game has got better.
I went with Jason Tatum, too, because I think when you take his 2 regular seasons in 2024, he was clearly the Celtics MVP. And in the finals, he had a good series.
Yeah, he did.
And he had a great Game 5 to the point where some people thought he could have won MVP. Brown is a fine choice. Don't get me wrong. He deserved it. He deserves all the credit in the world. But I go with the overall 2024 Jason Tatum, which by a 3-0 vote, our Celtics MVP is Jason Tatum. Ken, next category is the New England Patriots MVP.
Oy vey. Do they have an MVP? I'll go with Hunter Henry.
Okay. I'm going to go, I think they do have an MVP. And my choice is Christian Gonzalez because, look, 2024, did the Patriots play a game in the early 2024? No, they didn't make the playoffs. So this is what we have for 2024, the calendar year. Every week, whoever announces these games, and I realize it's not Jim Nantz and Tony Romo anymore because the Patriots are not one of the top teams, whoever announces, the analyst inevitably says something like, what a year this guy is having. Yeah. And I don't claim to be an expert on NFL defenses or NFL cornerback play. I don't. But this guy is having a tremendous season, could be an all-pro in his second year. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think he only played 4 games his first year. Maybe 1 or 2, give or take. So basically, you're looking at a guy who's playing his first full year. I think their MVP is Christian Gonzalez. Paul?
I agree. I think for all the reasons you cited, he's often put on the opponent's best receiver, sometimes not. And he's broken up passes. He's had a couple of picks.
Yeah.
I think he's played a little banged up. He was banged up last year. Let's hope that's not a trend. He's clearly their most valuable player. Might be good trade bait if you're actually doing a real rebuild. But hopefully he sticks around a while.
Okay, so the winner of the Patriots MVP for 2024 is Christian Gonzalez by a 2-1 vote. Okay, I lead off here with the Red Sox MVP. I'm going to say it was Jarren Duran. I talked about him before. He made great strides this year. He is their most exciting player. I mean, one of the most exciting things watching a Red Sox game is watching Jarren Duran hit a ball not even into the gap totally, but stretch a single to a double. He's improved his defense noticeably to the point where you now can play him in center field and be perfectly fine. So my MVP for the Red Sox is Jarren Duran. Paul?
Jarren Duran played 160 games. He led the American League in doubles. He led the American League in triples. He stole 34 bases, and he was the only reason to turn on the games.
That's right.
A lot of nights in the dog days of summer, so he's a clear choice for me.
Ditto.
Okay, Jarren Duran wins the Boston Sports Nuts Red Sox MVP of the year. And now, gentlemen, we are coming to the Big Four. This is like the end of the Academy Awards when they roll out Best Director, Best Producer, Best Film, Best Actors. So the first of the Big Four, we're going to lead off with Paul, is the best postseason athlete of 2024 Boston.
The best postseason athlete, this is an easy one because the Red Sox and the Patriots were not in the postseason.
Right.
So that narrowed it down to a couple of athletes, a couple of teams. I went with Jaylen Brown, who by the voting of experts won a couple of awards for his postseason play.
Yeah.
But not only did he do that, he sort of sent a message to the NBA community, the fans, and the media. It's not just Jason Tatum. I'm here too. And it's carried over into this season where he's been dominant in a lot of games and had some spectacular performances, especially at the beginning of games where the Celtics sometimes are a little slow to get started. So I got to go with Jaylen Brown as the outstanding postseason athlete of the year.
Yeah, I'm going with that. I'm echoing that. I'm going with that. He also wanted every night to pick up the best player on the other team. And his defense in the playoffs was incredible.
My choice is Jaylen Brown. Were you done?
Oh, yeah, I'm all done.
Okay.
Yeah.
My choice, too, was Jaylen Brown. And an
no,
example,
I'm not done.
It's an example of what Ken said. He wanted to guard Luka Doncic, and there's that famous story where he told Joe, don't take me out if Luka's still on the court. Yeah. So for all the reasons you guys said, Jaylen Brown wins our best postseason athlete. We're now down to the big three. Ken, you're starting off. Athlete of the year in Boston sports.
Well, I'm going back to Jason Tatum. That's my pick. He's incredible all-around athlete. We've talked about him. Going with Tatum.
I think Jason Tatum is the athlete of the year. Again, the 2 regular seasons he's put together, the growth as a player, the very good finals he had, and he is the best player on the Celtics who won the championship. I think he is the athlete of the year for Boston.
When you lead a championship NBA team in points and rebounds, you're a serious candidate for athlete of the year. I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. Make it unanimous, Jim.
Oh.
And so,
It's a landslide.
And so, for the unanimous athlete of the year in Boston, it is Jason Tatum. We are now down to the big 2. This is it. I lead off. Sports person of the year in Boston. This is anybody, athlete, anybody. I'm going to repeat myself. It's Jason Tatum. And some of the things Paul said in one of his things about Tatum, in addition to all the basketball stuff, he has become a total Celtic, in my opinion. He does a lot in the community, and he is totally now into the winning aspect of the game. In an era where players love to score a lot of points and he is not into that right now. He is into winning. And that is what we like, us old-timers used to like to call what a Celtic was about. So my choice for sports person of the year, Boston, is Jason Tatum. Paul?
Sports person of the year, to me, hands down, is Whit Grousbeck. Let me tell you why. Not an athlete. He can't get athlete of the year, okay? This is a team that, unlike the other 3 sports teams in Boston, who take advantage of their fans, who don't spend to the cap, who pocket a lot of the money, this is a team that for the last several years has been all in to win the championship. And if they're not all in to win the championship, to use the Dale Arnold tense, verb tense, if they're not all in, they don't win it. You have to go way over the cap if you're the Celtics to beat out some of these teams. And even then, it's a dogfight. So I got to go with Whit Grousbeck for his unyielding commitment. It's not just this past year.
No.
It's all the recent years where they've been championship driven. It's different here. Ubumbu or whatever it was. I mean, they're always trying to win the championship. And as fans, I have friends that are sports fans that aren't Celtics fans, and I say to them, what, do you not like winning? And basketball has never been my favorite sport, but I like to win, and I like to watch a team, and I want to support a team that's trying to win, and they are trying to win. So that's who I think is the sports personality of the year.
Good choice. So this is going to be tough because that's interesting what you said. I went with Brad Stevens as my sports person of the year because of the team he put together with the nerve to trade Marcus Smart and bring in Porzingis and Holiday. Changed a team that was, like you said, adjacent.
Yes, but none of that happens without the support of ownership.
That's true. I didn't think of it that way, but I chose Stevens. Going with Stevens because I thought he did such an amazing job.
Well, I don't agree with him. It's not all right. I want you to agree with me so that I win.
I could agree with you, but I went with Brad Stevens.
I have to take a point of personal privilege here. I misread my form. My sports person of the year, I was a big Sports Illustrated guy when that was popular. I used to get it. And one year...
Jaylen Brown got it.
One year they actually... No, he just got NBA Athlete of the Year.
Oh.
One year they split it. And I'm sorry, but I didn't look at my other column. My sports person of the year in Boston is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to split it. And the reason I say that is their combined 8-year journey to win a championship. For Brown, 9 years. But the idea that they did this together.
They've been around that long.
And in an era where teammates don't stay teammates that long. So my sports, and they also continued the tradition, great twosomes, Kuzi Shaman, Russell, Sam Jones, Collins Havlicek, Bird McHale, Garnett Pierce. Now it's Brown Tatum. My sports person of the year, again, I apologize, is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown sharing the award. We now get to the final category. The final category. We are going to go outside for Boston once and only once. We're going outside Boston.
Outside Boston.
Outside. So, Paul, you're up. And the category is Sports Person of the Year National.
Okay, so I had 3 candidates.
So did I.
Number 1 was Shohei Ohtani, who is Ruthian. Now, he didn't pitch this past year, but he can pitch. What he did on the baseball diamond throughout the course of the season was beyond belief.
Spectacular.
Tremendous personality, plays with a smile on his face a lot of the time. Over the years, baseball's become less popular in the media, but I'd like to think that he is now elevating the game a little bit in the eye of the public. My second nominee is Patrick Mahomes, who is on a Brady-like trajectory of winning multiple Super Bowls and just seems to have that duende, or remember we used to say that players had back in the 90s, inability to win. But my choice is someone that has elevated their sport in the eyes of the public like nobody else. There's nobody even close to Caitlin Clark. She is hands down the athlete of the year. And I'm not even a huge fan of women's basketball, not because I don't respect it, but I just can't fit it into my schedule. But if I'm looking at the last year, she's been on. She has made women's basketball, and you know what? Basketball in general more popular. She's gotten people to look at basketball as a game that's for women, not just men. She's been a global influence. I can't think of anybody bigger than her as athlete of the year.
Yeah, it's
Ken, Sports Person of the Year National.
Yep. Well, when I saw this category, the first name that popped into my head, without question, was Caitlin Clark. She just did more for the WNBA, for women's college basketball, for the sport of basketball, and she was everywhere, and she is absolutely a tremendous player.
Right, she actually delivered the goods.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, a lot of the other women in the WNBA didn't want her to, which was crazy. Like, hey, don't elevate our sport. We don't want to make more money because someone like you is coming in the league. Who do you think you are? But I went with Caitlin Clark. She was my first choice, and I stuck with it.
I had 3 candidates also. My first candidate was Scottie Scheffler. To dominate on the PGA Tour is extremely difficult. Yeah. There's simply too many good players.
Just ask Paul Izzo.
Scottie won 8 tournaments, 1 major, and a gold medal. It's going to be really tough to top that year with the level of play on the tour. So that was one of my choices. My other was Patrick.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
My other was Patrick Mahomes. He led the Chiefs to a Super Bowl in the calendar year 24. He's come back to lead them to a 15-1 record, constantly pulling out games that the Chiefs' offense, by the way, does not indicate a 15-1 team. They win because of Patrick Mahomes and others, but he is the other. My choice, I'm going to make it unanimous, was Caitlin Clark. To me, she was an absolute lock winner and should win every award that reflects this category, whether it's, I don't know what they give out anymore, SI, Hickok Belt, right. Whatever, AP, whatever it is, athletic. Caitlin Clark should win. For the reasons you guys cited, I will cite a couple more. She led her team to the NCAA Finals. She's done it 2 years in a row. She plays a style that people love to watch. People talk about, who does she remind you of? She reminds me of North Providence's own Ernie DiGregorio. She pushes the ball every time they get it. She is a great she's a great passer, can make behind the back passes. She's a great shooter. She brought that game to the WNBA. They were like 1-6. She led that team to the playoffs for the first time, and her future is bright. And the last reason is the way she handled all the publicity with class. She knew the impact she was having on young girls, too, and she was great with the kids. And it is Caitlin Clark to me in a lock. So we did not have a definitive winner in Sports Person of the Year, Boston, but we have a unanimous winner nationally. It's Caitlin Clark. That concludes our show. We want to wish everyone a happy new year. That's the 2024 Boston Sports Awards. So join us next time. For Paul Izzo, Ken Berman. I'm Jim Russo. Happy New Year.
Hey, you know, one other contestant, Nelly Corda won 6 champ titles
Yes.
in golf and 5 in a row.
Yeah.
She had a pretty good year herself,
bad,
huh?
not
Yeah.
Thank you for watching Boston Sports Nuts. You can find all of our episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to westwoodmediacenter.tv or follow Boston Sports Nuts on Facebook, Instagram, and X.